Hi, thanks for joining me. This is Angie at Chicken Scratch. This is the project we're making today. This is the fourth card for the Farmhouse Christmas Stamp Kit of the month. Here are the supplies. We've got crumb cake cardstock that measures 8.5 by 5.5. And then we've got cherry cobbler, and let me click on my measurements here. This measures 4 1/4 by 3 1/4. Very Vanilla is 4 by 3. Then we've got some scraps of Very Vanilla and cherry cobbler. The Very Vanilla is for the image here, and then the cherry cobbler is for the little bows, and then crumb cake for the fence here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is actually cut the designer series paper. This is the sheet that you're going to be using, and this piece is going to measure 5.5 by 2.5. So let me get the trimmer. So we're going to cut it at 2.5 first. That way you can get another card if you want. And then 5.5. Okay, so now let's take the crumb cake cardstock. We're going to score it at 4 1/4. And then fold it in half to form the card base. Okay, so the designer series paper is going to get attached right about there. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that over and add my snail adhesive. The next step is I'm going to add the burlap trim, and I've cut for the kit a little extra so that you can trim the sides. So I'm just going to take my snail. You can use whatever adhesive you prefer. Now I'm laughing because if you look at my sample, you'll see when I went to cut the burlap, I actually cut into my card, but I don't think anybody's going to notice. So I'm going to try to not do that this time. There we go. Okay. Now, the next layer, which is this one right here, is going to get attached right about there. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I normally do the stamping next, but it never hurts to switch things up, right? Okay, so right about there. I'm just centering it. Okay, now what we want to do is stamp our tree on this piece using Memento ink. This is actually the only image that's stamped on that. The rest of them are just layered on. Uh-oh, and it looks like I got ink on that one. So I'm just going to flip it over. Thank goodness for two-sided paper, right? Okay, now we're going to stamp Merry Christmas, or Happy Christmas wishes, I should say. I'm going to stamp this right in the middle. Okay, so all of the framelits for this card are actually from the Farmhouse framelits. So we've got the tree. Actually, we're not cutting out the tree, though. So let me take that back. We're cutting out the Happy Christmas with that one. And we're cutting out the fence. Oh, and you know what? We need to stamp the truck. So I do need another piece of Very Vanilla. Okay, so now let's stamp the truck. And I'm probably going to make one small change to the kit. Those of you that get the kit, I'm probably just going to give you a 1/4 sheet of Very Vanilla. And you can cut out your greeting and your truck out of one sheet. That way, instead of having two pieces. Okay, so instead of these two, you'll just get 1/4 sheet. Okay, so now let's color our images. I am using crumb cake for the tree. I will probably fast forward some of this. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Now let's color our truck. This one will take some time, so I'm probably going to fast forward it as well. Yeah, so Daffodil Delight for the headlights. And then let's go ahead and do the tires. Although this looks purple, it's actually the light basic black. And that's what we're coloring the tires. Okay. I believe it was card number 2 that we also colored the truck. So it is colored the exact same way, just to make life simpler. Smoky Slate. And I say that they're both colored the same. Of course, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, did I color them the same? I'm not sure. Don't hold me to it if I didn't get that right. Okay, now let's do the tree. And now we're going to do the truck. I found one more spot that needs the smoky slate. So before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and do that and then go back to the cherry cobbler. I didn't want to forget. Pretty good, right? Okay, so here's the big shot. I had it platform and a cutting pad. We're going to start with the fence. And what I'm going to do is actually place another piece of cardstock right under where the fence is going to be. And that just makes it a little bit easier. I could use the other platform, the other precision plate or something. Can't remember the name of it. But I just like using another piece of cardstock, and I run it through a couple of times. Then it just kind of pops right out. So I'll show you what I mean. See? It just, like butter. Okay, so I'm going to take that extra piece of cardstock out. We don't need that anymore. And now we're going to cut the rest of the pieces. So the Happy Christmas is going to get cut with this one. And again, all of these framelits for this card are included in the Farmhouse framelits. Some of the other cards used layering circles and the stitch shapes. Now I'm going to cut out the truck. Hopefully I didn't call this a tree earlier. It does have a tree though, so. Okay, now we need to cut out the little bows. Oh, that thing slid. Okay, so let's get all of our pieces back in here. What we're going to do is take our silicone mat and add some liquid glue. I think on the other project that had the fence, my silicone mat was upstairs. I had been assembling my paper pumpkin cards. I don't normally do that. I don't know what got into me. I just pretty much decided I was going to sit down and make them. Okay, so this is going to go on the very bottom, and then we're going to trim the extra. But here's what I want to do, is I want to make sure that my bow placement is going to work. So, yeah. So if you look at the card, we have a bow here right above the truck, and then we have one to the right of the tree, just barely to the right. You can place it wherever you want, but I know that many of you guys like to make it exact, so I'm sharing that tip so that if you want to make it exact, that's how you do it. And that liquid glue will dry clear. I did put a little too much glue on there, so less is more because it works really well. And then I'm going to trim just this little piece here. There we go. Okay. And where did I put those little bows? Here they are. So since I have my mat here, I'm going to put a little drop of glue. Of course, that's more than a little, isn't it? Okay, and I've got a little bit of putty coming out of my, what's this called? Take Your Pick tool. And I'm just putting a little bit of adhesive on it. I say a little. As you can see, I almost got too much. And then now I'm going to pick up the second one. Get a little bit of adhesive. Sometimes you have to form that putty. I got way too much glue. That always happens when you're filming videos. I made that card in one setting and didn't mess up anything. Okay, now let's go ahead and add this layer to the card front. Uh-oh, it's sticking because it's not dry yet. Okay, there we go. Now this is going to get added with dimensionals. So I've got those right here. And the truck is also going to get added with dimensionals. So I'm going to add the greeting first, right about there. And then the truck. And you know what? I'm going to move it over a tad so that I don't cover up the bow. So this truck is a little bit more in the center than the first one, and it's just because of the way I applied the fence. Okay, so this is the original. This is the one I just made. Pretty similar, right? Okay, thanks a lot. Have a great day. Bye.